Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning into our session today on nutrition and sleep. My name is Suwilo Namfukwe, and I am the managing consultant at Elevate Wellness Solutions, which is a holistic wellness services provider based here in Lusaka. And today, for these two topics, I am joined by Dr. Kieran O'Dane, who is also one of the consultants for Elevate, but he's got a much bigger and broader story than that. So I am just going to hand over to Kieran and just, Kieran, first of all, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about nutrition and sleep and how those two interact with.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Would you mind just sharing a little bit more about yourself? Who are you? What do you do? And how is it that you became a nutritionist?
That's an interesting story. Well, my journey in academia started off in chemistry. Funnily enough, I wanted to be a drug developer. So I was doing a lot of research with regards to HIV and AIDS. So I thought that, one day maybe I can contribute to developing this miracle drug that can, finally, eradicate the virus. But I soon became extremely skeptical that that was ever going to happen. I switched my focus more towards biology. So I did my master's in molecular biology of viruses, wanted to learn more about the virus. And I was thinking of all these, biomedical interventions. And then I realized that that was actually not possible, especially to help the communities that were most affected, right?
Yeah.
So that was when my eyes turned towards nutrition. And I thought that maybe, the improving quality of foods, access to foods would be actually have a more of a long-term benefit, right? And a more holistic benefit towards improving health. So that was my first direction, the first time I directed myself towards nutrition.
Yeah.
And then I realized that it's not just HIV, but actually all diseases, right? So the vast majority of diseases, apart from your genetic diseases, that nutrition plays a major role. So if you look at all your non-communicable diseases like your cancers, your diabetes, heart disease, they're all linked to our diets. Right. So that was my calling, I should say, towards nutrition. So I pretty much left most of the life sciences behind, and I went towards my nutrition, my PhD in nutrition. To be fair, it's all interconnected, because to have a better understanding of, the role of nutrients in our health, I had to understand, how the immune system works, so I was able to interlink all of these different disciplines towards really understanding the importance of food and nutrition in our health. Yeah, so I think it was a necessary, journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that though. I love how that process evolved from, looking at the pharmaceutical side of things. Is that correct? Kind of like how do we develop
Yeah,
medications that are going
absolutely.
to cure these
So I studied in South Africa.
Mm.
So I did my PhD research in South Africa, and then I moved to Zambia to work at the University of Zambia here, where I pretty much train nutritionists and provide some information on some of the nutritional problems that we see here in Zambia.
Oh yeah, what a journey. And so happy that we get to have you here in Zambia and get to utilize all of your skills and your knowledge and kind of tap into all of the various experiences that, like you rightly said, they all intertwine and they all create this whole picture and this bigger picture, I guess, of how to approach nutrition and health and well-being. So Man, that's such an interesting story. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about you. And I'm sure we'll hear more about, your experiences and stuff as we kind of get through today. So yeah, as I had mentioned at the beginning, just kind of as I was introducing us, we're talking about nutrition and sleep today. We're talking about how these two affect us, the importance of them in our lives, what's the connection between how we eat, how we sleep, and our overall health and wellness. And as part of Elevate and what we do, we are committed to providing services to people that look at your health and your wellness, not just from singular aspects of it, but looking at it very holistically. So we're not just talking about, okay, are you eating right? Are you sleeping right? But are you okay emotionally? Is your mental health okay? Are you taking care of your finances? Are you happy in your work? Do you have occupational wellness? What about your intellect? Are you tapping into your intellect and making sure that you're utilizing it in a way that leaves you feeling fulfilled? So we want to look at it very holistically. But today we're focusing in and we're honing in on those two things: what we eat and how we sleep, and how that impacts us. So I think we all know at this point, right, Kieran, that nutrition is a huge part of whether we're healthy and we're well. Our overall health and well-being is pretty dependent on what we're taking into our bodies, right? So I guess just for you, what would you say are some of the things that people can be thinking through when it comes to what it is that they're eating? What are some of the things that people should be considering as far as what they're eating and how it might be affecting their overall health?
I think what we eat is just as important as what we avoid eating or what we don't eat. So I think now, especially a lot of our countries, that are developing, that are growing economically, our diets have shifted more towards that Western style diet, or what they call the SAD diet, the standard American diet. And we've been consuming a lot more unhealthy foods, more globalized foods that are rich in calories, contain a lot of sugar, a lot of salt, a lot of refined carbs. And I think that is being the biggest hindrance to our health, right? So um, as opposed to like not consuming certain healthy foods. I think the overconsumption of these unhealthy foods is the biggest problem. Because if everyone was to consume just a typical balanced diet, then for the most part, we'd be okay. So I think instead of like searching for the superfood that is going to, protect us all from bad health, I think the most important thing would be to limit the intake of these these unhealthy foods, right? So to pay attention to like our consumption of like our sugary drinks, for example, all these different things. We should, be a lot more mindful of our intake of them.
Yeah, yeah. Then I guess you've kind of already even touched on some of the practicalities of it's not just what you eat, it's also what you don't eat. So trying to limit how much sugary and processed foods that we're actually incorporating into our diet. Is there anything else that you might think of that would be particularly important for people to be considering as they think about, okay, how can I put into action healthy nutritional practices that are going to improve my health, boost my immune system, and leave me feeling healthy and well?
Absolutely. I think especially when it comes to immune health, what we could try focusing on more is our consumption of fruits and vegetables, right? So especially when it comes to the immune system, you really can't go wrong with eating as much fruits and vegetables as you possibly can. Those two food groups there in particular, they contain a lot of phytonutrients. Phytonutrients is those nutrients that are exclusively available in plant-based foods. right? So like your green, your orange, your red, your purple foods, those colorful foods, they're very rich in your phytonutrients, right? So they're like hundreds of them. I'm not gonna name them all,
Mm.
but these phytonutrients are some very potent antioxidants, right? So these antioxidants, they help to get rid of all the excess free radicals in the body. These free radicals, if they build up too much, they can damage some of our proteins, some of our fatty acids, and that is what can lead to some of the breakdown. So I think, yeah, these antioxidants are really, really important. And also, another point too, when your body is fighting off an infection, when the immune cells are like overactive, they produce a lot of excess free radicals, like as byproducts, right? So these antioxidants can help to scavenge and soak up all of these and get rid of them, right? They also have a lot of, because of these properties, they're also good at fighting cancers as well, right? So very high intake of fruits and veg is something I wish I knew as a teenager because I hated vegetables, but they are the perfect disease fighting foods that you can imagine. And the more colorful, the better, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So adding a variety of fruits and vegetables into your diet, getting as colorful with those as you possibly can. Those are all things, yeah, those are all things that are going to help us to improve our health and our well-being when it comes to what it is we're eating, which I find very interesting. I mean, I remember as a teenager knowing that you needed to have your fruits and your vegetables in order to, it's like you have to eat your fruits and the vegetables to be healthy, but I did
Yeah,
not
you
like
didn't know why, right? You didn't, like, the science wasn't really there. You didn't know, like, oh, they're so rich in all these things. You just think, oh, they taste funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't want that. Give me a candy bar and some chips. And yeah, I wish I had the wisdom I have now to, to actually implement it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Um,
the adolescent period is such an important period as well, you know, for you to be eating healthy food. So that is something I'll teach my kids one day.
yeah. So is there a particular reason for that? Is that just because it's such a pivotal developmental time, like you're kind of setting up the raw material
Exactly.
for who you're going to be as an adult?
Exactly, exactly. So, in from a social perspective, you kind of shape your behavioral patterns during adolescence. So, essentially, what you do during that phase, you're pretty much going to carry on doing it as an adult,
Right.
right? Unless you learn better, which is what I did.
Yeah.
But also from a developmental phase as well, you know, that's like the second fastest stage of development in a person apart from infancy, right? So that's when you develop all your muscle mass, you know, your brain develops as well. So yeah, nutrition is very important at that stage.
Absolutely. Man, the nutritional damage I must have done as a teenager.
I know, right? I know. Tell me about it.
Man, but it's very interesting that you raise the issue of taking in, like you said, different vegetables and different fruits, because I know whenever I've done workshops on fatigue specifically, so when I do workshops on fatigue management, we talk about how do you eat right in order to get the best sleep that you can, and da 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 da. And oftentimes what I met with in the Zambian context is, okay, but how do you expect us to eat fruits and vegetables when they're so expensive? And so I always put the question back, okay, when you say fruits and vegetables are expensive, start naming off fruits and vegetables that are expensive. And you start to hear things like apples, oranges, kiwi, vegetables, you start hearing things like Brussels sprouts, all of these other things. And you're like, okay, so when I say increase fruits and vegetables, we automatically start thinking about some of these more Western diets. or even other culture-centered fruits and vegetables, which may have been brought into the forefront of our attention as Zambians as to, these are fruits and vegetables. So when it comes to a traditional Zambian diet and what is actually accessible to us as Zambians, and what should we should we be looking at when it comes to what we have available to us and how we can get the most from those things. What are some of your thoughts around that? What are some of your thoughts around how do we access these fruits and vegetables that are going to actually ultimately improve our health and boost our immune system, give us all of those nutrients that we need? Yeah, what are your thoughts around that when it comes to the Zambian specific environment?
Yeah, Zambia has so many, like a diverse array of fruits and vegetables, but sadly, most of it is not utilized because when you go to the average supermarket,
Mm.
you're mainly gonna find your Western type fruits, your apples, your oranges. Um, yeah, you have to go to like, let's say by the vendor by the side of the road, perhaps, to find some of these foods. I mean, admittedly, some of the fruits themselves are quite seasonal, but even that in itself provides an avenue for preserving is what I'm looking for, preserving these foods so that it can be available throughout the year. But yeah, there's so many like indigenous fruits, like your masuku and even mangoes, that are like extremely nutrient rich. Then when you talk about the vegetables, you have the cowpea leaves, your sweet potato leaves, pumpkin leaves, and all these other names that I'm not gonna try to pronounce now. But yeah, they are like superbly rich in nutrients, and they're not readily seen in the markets, or not in the markets, but like in the supermarkets. You have to go to either your like your Soweto markets or other places that might be a bit far out for someone living in certain areas. So I think these foods in particular need to be more utilized. And for that to happen, there needs to be a lot more information available as to how nutritious these foods are. So when there's a consumer demand for it, then the farmers are more likely to grow and supply these foods. So you can have a knock-on effect on improving incomes for farmers, right? Improving the diversity of the crops that they produce, as well as, providing more nutritious foods on the market. And, there's a lot of recipes that can be shared,
Yeah.
from generations to these urban consumers. Uh, yeah, these foods definitely need to be utilized more, I think. Like, absolutely. There are so many different crops that we can be having instead of just relying on this small number of these expensive imported foods.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also amazing how I've noticed over the years, you find different trends, right? So like now and for the past like few years, avocado has been this like incredible superfood that you must have because it's rich in all the good fats and all of these other things. And so then you go to the supermarket, and to buy an avocado at ShopRite costs like 10 kwacha, right? And like one of those little ones. It's not even like the big ones that you get on the side of the road. It's like a tiny little avocado. And so then the prices start to spike up at supermarkets. And then likewise, even at the market, because I was amazed that when I went to the market to buy an avocado cost me 10 kwacha as well, but it was a bigger avocado. So I guess proportionately it was a little bit cheaper. But yeah, it's just amazing how these trends start to come in and they start to happen when we've grown up with avocado trees, we've grown up with mango trees, with guava trees, with orange or lemon trees in your yard. We've grown up with all of these things, and it's not until it becomes a fad that we start to acknowledge that this is actually good for our health. So if we were to start a fad, Kieran, around the things in our local, around in our local arsenal of fruits and vegetables and foods that actually are really good for us, what would kind of be in that bucket of fads? And I'm not saying this just as a disclaimer for these things to become more expensive. I'm just saying this for us to be able to, yeah, to optimize what we have.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. I think if we were to popularize, these local foods, there would be a total shift in our food system,
Yeah.
like from improving health to also improving farmers' income as well.
Yeah.
So I think we shouldn't have to wait for other people to tell us that our foods are healthy, right? We shouldn't have to wait for scientists to do their analysis and to tell us, well, these foods are rich in X, Y, Z. Then all of a sudden, then we start rushing to buy it, right? Because they're already here and we can utilize them now while they're still affordable, right? So um, I remember there's this one nutritionist I follow on Instagram. Can't remember her name now, but she utilized this phrase called decolonize your plate, right? So it's like these as you call them, these fads, right? These trends, they are not the only nutritious foods, right? So quinoa is not like the only nutritious food, or
Right.
kale, or whatever else is the new trend, right? So there are many indigenous crops that we could utilize. So one that I wanted to highlight was is millet. So the millet grain, that grain itself is highly nutritious, is rich in micronutrients, several micronutrients, as well as phytonutrients. It's got antioxidant properties, but also the crop itself is very climate resilient, right? So you don't really need a lot of inputs for it to grow, which is good for farmers. And especially as our climates are changing, we running out of water sources in many areas, places suffering from drought. So these types of crops, amaranth is another crop as well, right? We have the amaranth grain as well as the leaves, which can be used, highly nutritious as well, also climate resilient. So these type of crops, you can pretty much grow them anywhere. They'll give you a decent yield. So they're good for farmers, good for consumers. So I think some of these crops in themselves need to become a lot more popularized, so we need to find these recipes that can be used so people can know how to prepare it, right? Because I think that's another barrier as well. People might not exactly know, okay, how do I cook this? So yeah, things like millet, things like sorghum as well. Sorghum is another very nutritious grain. I think sorghum and millet are actually more nutritious than maize, than white maize. White maize it lacks a lot of nutrients, like your vitamin A. It doesn't have much vitamin A, doesn't have much selenium. Those two micronutrients are very important for immune system functions.
Yeah.
And those are my two go-to foods now. I think those two foods can actually become, or should become a lot more popular.
Yeah.
If you look into creator trends.
Okay. Yeah. So I would definitely be keeping my eye out for millet and amaranth for sure. And I know you said that a lot of times there's also the lack of knowledge around how do I actually prepare some of these things. And it's been really, really exciting to just kind of get on the online space. I think one of the biggest blessings of COVID has been that everyone has been kind of forced into this more online presence. And so we actually get to see a lot more of what has been going on, and a lot of Zambian people doing incredible stuff. And I'm just going to do a quick shout out to a girl named Kasonde. And if anyone's on Instagram, you should definitely check her out. I think it's called Cooking by Kasonde, or Cooking by Kaswande, I think that's what it's called. If I'm wrong with that, I will clarify that. But she just does an amazing job at making healthy, nutritious meals and incorporating so many different things from the Zambian diet that a lot of us either shy away from, because there's also that social component to what we eat, right, Kieran? So there's that social and just status related pressure or influence that may surround some of the choices that we make when it comes to what we eat. It's like, oh, I can't go and buy, finkuala or caterpillars at the market because then it looks like I'm poor. Or I cannot serve my guests kapenta at home because then it looks like I don't have enough money to buy them chicken and steak. And oh man, for me, my biggest hope and my biggest desire is that we can kind of throw away the stereotypes that are associated with certain foods because we feel like they're foods from the village. If they're from the village, then that means they're village foods, and I'm a town person.
You know what? All it takes is for one person to write an article, like in the Guardian or something, and say, this food, these rural African foods are so healthy and they help to prevent, colon cancer. And then you'll see all these same people are going to be rushing to buy those foods. So that's all it takes for a shift in mindset, for someone to popularize it in some way. Then people are going to change their thoughts and be like, oh, well, I know this food. I used to eat this as a child, or, my grandmother used to prepare this. And then that's going to lead to that change. We just need to, respect our diets, respect our indigenous diets or traditional diets.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are out there and you're planning on hosting a dinner party sometime soon, don't feel like you have to focus in or hone in on only those, highly processed, things that you can get at expensive prices from the store, from the grocery stores or whatever else. Maybe be the person that takes that first step to say, you know what, I'm going to have people over and I'm going to have a purely Zambian spread. And we're going to talk about why it's good for us. And I'm going to be bold in that. And I'm not going to feel ashamed or feel like if I offer people these things to eat, then it makes me look like I can't afford to have some of these other things. But it's more about, hey, I want to be around for the next 10 years to enjoy the money that I'm making. So I'm not going to waste that on eating highly processed. It's going to be bad for me.
Absolutely. There's this document that I found online. It was published by the Ministry of Agriculture. It's called Recipe Book on Zambian Traditional Foods. So if anyone can just Google that, they'll find it. And it's got a range of recipes, looking at some of the indigenous legumes as well as vegetables, even your meats as well. So like your chicken and fish, cereals, fruits as well. So it's really it's a really good resource. So if there's some food that you might not know how to prepare, it will give you some ideas on, how to make it, what to add to it. And even has some information on how to process certain ingredients, like how to preserve your pumpkin, your vegetables, how to make a groundnut paste and all of that. So search for that and download that book. It's a free PDF file. It's a recipe book on Zambian traditional foods.
Okay, just on Zambian traditional foods. So you Google that, you can find that, and it's available.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's so many resources out there. Let's just let 2021 be the year where we dive, headfirst into some of these traditional foods we have available that are good for us and they're going to improve our health and well-being, especially with the fact that Corona is still around. It is not going to hurt us to have a strengthened and a stronger immune system and just be healthier, better off for that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the silver linings of this pandemic is that it's getting people to be a lot more mindful of their immune health, right? So especially those people that are paranoid about taking the vaccine and all of this drama. So just, prepare yourself, prepare your body, make sure that you stay healthy. And
Yeah.
you can do that by how you eat, right? And how you can exercise as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So lots of stuff out there. I hope everyone checks some of these things out. I guarantee you won't regret making the choice to improve your dietary and nutritional practices. And I don't know how many of us are aware of this, but March 19th is actually World Sleep Day. Did you know that March 19th was World Sleep Day, Karen?
I did not know that. No, no.
Neither did I. Neither did I. And I'm so glad I came across it because I do enjoy my sleep. But again, just talking about how do we make sure that we're taking care of ourselves in the best way possible. Sleep is another critical component to our overall health and our overall well-being. So it's not just about, am I sleeping 6 or 7 hours, which is the recommended number of hours for an adult to sleep each night, but it's about having the right amount of sleep quantity and also the right quality of sleep. So if you're not actually getting into a proper sleep cycle when you go to sleep, if you're disturbed in the middle of the night because there's noise around you and so you're constantly waking up, you might be able to say in the morning, oh, I slept for 8 hours, but you didn't get a good quality of sleep because you're constantly woken up. Or if you have a sleeping disorder, so if you struggle with insomnia and you keep waking up periodically in the middle of the night, that also interrupts your ability to sleep. And the thing is, when it comes to sleep and our sleep time is almost like the equivalent of you taking your car in to the shop to get maintenance done. So when we are sleeping, that is our body's
Rejuvenation.
time of like going into the shop, as it were, or it's our pit stop. If you're a NASCAR person, it's our pit stop to be able to have the proper maintenance done on our bodies that our bodies actually need to be able to utilize the food we take in, to be able to optimize our exercise, to be able to do everything that is actually going to keep us fit and healthy. It's that time when our body says, hey, we're now going to renew your all of your stuff in your body. We're going to take care of your systems. We're going to revamp everything. And so if we don't have that time or that good quality and quantity of sleep, that can negatively affect our health. So there's obviously lots of different things that go into whether or not we get a good quality and quantity of sleep. And obviously from a lifestyle stance and from a lifestyle perspective, your routine, whether you're going to bed on time, whether you're staying up playing video games or watching TV or on your phone, doing TikTok or whatever else it is, some of these things can affect whether or not we get good quality or quantity of sleep. And also even just the places where we sleep. So does our sleep environment allow for us to actually get the right kind of sleep that we need to be able to yeah, like I said, to have the maintenance done on our bodies that needs to happen? Or are we surrounded by a lot of noise? Is our sleep environment uncomfortable? All of these things play into whether or not we get the kind of sleep that we need. But also the nutrition side does as well, right, Kieran? So what we're eating can also have an impact on whether or not we're getting the kind of sleep that we need to be able to do the maintenance in our bodies that needs to happen. So from a nutrition standpoint, Karen, what is the link? What is the actual link between what we're eating and how we sleep?
Well, I think that link, there's a lot more research that needs to go into that link between nutrition and sleep. But what is known at the moment is that there are a lot of things that we do, a lot of habits that we have that can actually hinder our sleeping process. So, for example, in as much as it's about what we eat, it's also how we eat as well. So the timing of our last meal play a role. If you have a very heavy meal right before you sleep, right, that could like activate it and make you give you like irritable bowel syndrome, which can affect your sleeping patterns as well, right?
Mm.
So a lot of energy would be needed to digest that food, and as a result, you might not be able to sleep. Also, going to sleep hungry as well could also prevent you from sleeping.
Mm.
So it's about like striking a balance. Then we have all the sleep robbers, you know, as they are often called, like your caffeine, your nicotine, alcohol as well. A
Mm,
lot of people might have a nightcap to help them sleep, even though they might fall asleep faster. The quality of sleep it won't be there, you know.
mm,
Then you know people will have to be also waking up in the middle of the night to want to use the bathroom as well. That can disrupt your sleeping patterns. So I think people need to like pay attention to that as well, like how we eat and what we eat as well.
yeah.
But in terms of foods specifically that have been linked to improving sleep, um, there's this amino acid called tryptophan. So tryptophan has been associated with improving sleep, improving the quality of sleep. So foods that are rich in that specific amino acids, so like your eggs, honey as well is rich in tryptophan. So having a little bit of these foods, especially like before bed, can improve or contribute to those to improving sleep. I think nuts, certain nuts and seeds as well, bananas,
Mm,
though they also contain some of this amino acid. So those are the foods that I can think of just off the top of my head
mm,
that you know might help to improve sleep. I think I also need to increase my intake of that as well. A sleep rubber, right? So if you have a lot on your mind and your brain is, you know,
yeah.
working overtime,
Mm,
sometimes it may not even matter like what you eat. If you're too stressed out and you know you're thinking, overthinking things, that is definitely going to affect your sleeping patterns, you know, no matter what you eat.
yeah.
So it's important to know that, you know, you need to have a holistic um, perspective and a holistic attitude towards sleep. You know,
Right.
you need to make sure that we do everything possible because sleep is very, very important for the body, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Right. So, in terms of trying to reduce our stress levels, trying to reduce our screen time as well before bed,
Mhm.
you know, things that are not going to keep our brains too active so that we can just relax and switch off. So, I've actually been doing some research on this, and
Mm,
if you have like a specific cutoff time where you say, okay, electronics are off by this time, and you give your body enough time to wind down and relax. You know, you have a cup of, well, I personally don't drink milk, but if someone drinks milk, you
mm,
know, you can have a cup of milk before bedtime, a light snack, you know, some nuts, some seeds,
mm,
you know, have a cup of tea, non-caffeinated tea,
mm,
like a chamomile tea with honey,
mm.
you know, things like that.
Yeah.
I think that would definitely will
Yeah.
work towards improving sleep. And
Yeah.
it's something that I am practicing as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I hear
speak
you.
from
Okay.
experience.
Yeah. I've been not, and I'll be honest, not with 100% success, but a lot of smartphones now actually even have an option for you to cut off screen time. So you can actually set your phone to go into sleep mode at a certain time so that you're not
Mm,
interrupted by phone calls, you're not interrupted by text messages, and you can actually just put your phone aside and get the rest that you need. So I think it's important for us to take note that even phone developers are saying, hey, there needs to be a cap on this. Even though I'm sure they
absolutely,
still
yeah.
benefit from us using all of the devices, they still recognize that it's healthy for us to be able to have a cutoff point. So check out your phone and see if it has settings for you to be able to set some screen time, set time for you to be able to just shut off your devices so that you can focus on actually getting to rest, because there is a process as well in allowing your body to wind down in order for you to be able to get the rest that you need. I love those suggestions, Kira, even just being able to have like a nice hot cup of something, tea, obviously non-caffeinated, because you don't want to start triggering your
Mm,
alert mode by taking in caffeine. That's going to
yeah,
be
stimulating yourself at that time. Yeah, that's
right.
true. And
Exactly.
even if you have like a filter, like a blue light filter on your phone
Mhm.
that comes on at a certain time, because apparently that's LED light or whatever they call it,
Mm.
that can also
Yeah.
affect your sleep as well,
Right.
so keep you from falling asleep.
Yeah, exactly. Because our bodies are wired in such incredible ways that they respond to stimulus around us in order to get done what needs to happen. And so as humans, we've developed a lot of technology and a lot of things that mimic things in our natural environments that can trigger biological responses in us. So sometimes I know even when I would do the fatigue stuff, I would explain to people the reason why looking at your phone or looking at a computer screen or being in a light room makes it more difficult for you to sleep is because your body thinks, hey, this is daylight. I'm seeing light. Therefore, I need to be
Exactly.
active. So you need to be
Exactly.
able to
Exactly.
turn that off. You need to start to go into that this is nighttime mode for your body to then say, this is time for me to start resting because your body is also biological and responds, as I said, to things that are happening outside of you in order to do what it needs to do. And so if it's constantly feeling like it's daylight, it might be tired, but it will still be like, but this is my active time. This is my active time. So even if you do get sleep, it won't be the good quality of sleep because your body feels like it should still be awake. So there's so much we could get into. And we could talk about around around all of this, but hopefully it whets people's appetites to understand a little bit more about how they can make choices that allow them to get the best out of what they're eating and the best out of their sleep.
Yeah, I think those are pretty much what I can think of at the moment in terms of not eating a heavy meal right before bed.
Yeah.
So your digestive system is not too active, while you're trying to sleep as well. At the same time, not going to bed like too hungry, so
Right.
maybe like having just a light snack,
Mm,
a cup of tea with some honey in it,
mm,
maybe a boiled egg or something like that,
mm.
just to get that into your body so it can help to,
Yeah.
activate that sleeping process, that quality of sleep. Also, not to have a cutoff time for your liquid intake as well,
Mm,
right? So, like, say for example, you don't have any liquids after 8 p.m.
yeah.
so that you're less likely to be waking up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. That can affect your sleep,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a combination of things that we can look at
Yeah.
to help us with that because we do need that sleep, especially the older we get. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
funny, there's this term that I read about called revenge sleep procrastination. It's like when you're very busy during the day and then you get home and you feel like you don't have enough leisure time. So you delay your sleep intentionally. So you stay up watching like Netflix or
Mm,
on your phone just because you feel like you didn't really get time to yourself during the day. So
yeah.
that is something that I think a lot of us do probably unconsciously,
Yeah.
so that is something we should avoid as well.
Right. Yeah.
So we should be kind to ourselves. Sleep is a part of self-care. Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it just keeps cycling back to just how important it is for us to be thinking about our how well we are and our health and our overall well-being and even caring from ourselves from a very holistic standpoint. We can't just focus in on one aspect and expect that everything else is going to fall into place. Let's be honest with ourselves, have a good personal inventory of what is our lifestyle, what choices are we making, and how is this affecting our overall health and well-being, and what can we do about it. So thank you so much, Karen. I think we're out of time for today, but thank you so much for taking the time for us to discuss this. As we said,
Thank you for
nutrition.
having me.
Oh man, no, the pleasure is mine. The pleasure is mine. It's so important for us to be cognizant of these things and to be aware of how they're impacting us. And this is just the tip of the iceberg on all of these things and how to manage them. So I hope it's given some people out there some useful information. And if you have any questions, or if you feel like you've heard us talk and you're like, I think that that's an issue for me, or that's an area that I'm having challenges in getting under control, don't hesitate to reach out and contact us. And we'll be more than happy to provide you with the support that you need to be able to take control of your health and your wellness, to live the best life that we can, because we only have this one. We might as well make the most of it. We might as well get the best out of it that we possibly can. As I said, we're here at Elevate. Kieran is also available. He's one of our consultants to do sessions with individuals. So please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out if you feel like you would like more information or more insight in how you can implement some of these things and other things into your life. Because as we've also given some general suggestions and pointers, I think Kieran will also agree with me that each of us is very uniquely individually us. And so no blanket statement is going to fit every single person. You know, you might have an allergy towards millet. We don't know. So then we have to figure out what other sources of nutrients can you utilize in order to get what you would have gotten from this as opposed to that. Or you might have an underlying condition that may require us to look at your diet from a very different perspective. So all of us are uniquely different. It's so important for our life plans and how we're implementing all of these wellness pointers to be catered towards who we are. So don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any questions, we would love to help answer those for you. Thanks again, Kieran, and looking forward.
Thank you. Thank you for your dedication to this. Is very important, extremely important, you know. So helping to improve the lives of many people.
And
it's very, very commendable.
That's the goal. That's the hope, and that's the goal. So thank you so much. And thank you for tuning in. And we hope to see you next time for another episode on how to optimize your health and well-being. Thank you.